India, you're most welcome to the Nilecast on Westnile Television, where we give the daily news bulletins of the day every day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. My name is Okumringa Christine. Before we dive into any of the stories, let's first have a look at the news that has made headlines. In the headlines tonight, 1,400 people acquire customary land titles in northern Uganda. Tergo community members skilled on restoration of the degrading ecosystem. And President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni celebrates his 79th birthday fete at Kololo Independence Grounds in Kampala City. This and more in the Nilecast News Bulletin. A warm welcome to you, viewer, to the Nilecast on Westnile Television. Now let us dive into some of the stories of the evening. Beneficiaries of the certificates of customary land ownership in northern Uganda have been overjoyed over the sale of land and using it to obtain loans from moneylenders under unproductive circumstances. This comes at a time where leaders from the various ministries of northern Uganda, lands and housing and urban development, local government as well as finance handed over 1,400 certificates of customary land ownership and commissioned 6 recorders in the 3 districts of Maracha, Agago and Apache under the pilot project of Development Initiative for Northern Uganda, of which 1,293 women benefited. Frederick Dramadri has more.
At least 1,400 individuals in northern Uganda have secured their land titles on customary land tenure under the pilot land component of the Development Initiative for Northern Uganda, DINU, with support from United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, and the European Union. During the official commissioning of the pilot interventions by the various dignitaries, many praised the first phase of this program, noting that this has improved Uganda's infrastructure development through the construction of 6 sub-county land offices, termed to be recorders, at a cost of 75 million Ugandan shillings each, in the 3 pilot districts of Maracha, Apache and Agago, to enable the documentation and storage of customary land records and take land services closer to the landowners. The newly registered customary landowners paid at least 10,000 shillings for the acquisition of the land documents. In a brief statement from the Ministry of Lands presented by the Public Relations Officer Dennis Obo, out of the investments during the pilot study between the years of 2017 and 2022, already the government has registered significant increase in revenue up to 14 million Ugandan shillings from the 1,400 certificates of customary land ownerships issued.
Those who have seen the files have seen that the 10,000 has been paid and the receipts are on file as evidence. We shall introduce administrative measures of mapping customary land using techniques as those that are used for surveying and mapping, so that in terms of accuracy, if you ever want to convert your CCOs to freeholds, you do not have to go back and carry out the surveying. We know how expensive survey is.
According to Nabwaka Eunice, the principal land officer in the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, the certificate of customary land ownership has unique features that cannot be tampered with by any person and encourage the landlords to keep them safe.
It is a legally recognized document, has any equal legal force just like any other certificates of title. So do not feel. So this summary ownership has been issued.
Meanwhile, Caroline Anderson, the European Union head of cooperation in Uganda, reveals that 80% of the land in Uganda, especially in the rural settings, is untitled, giving room for looming internal conflicts among family members, adding that this has triggered the organization to join the fight for land security in Uganda.
I'm happy to see that we have been working on customary ownership, as it has been explained by the speakers before me. land ownership is a source of conflict. So when we manage to look into it and title, it is helping to reduce the number of land conflicts, and it is facilitating also the use of land titles as security in the bank to access credits and to increase production. I think this effort is a joint effort. It is the result of a partnership between the development partners and the government of Uganda. It's also the result of a partnership between central government and local leadership.
Marsa District members of parliament who were present joined other leaders in appreciating the government for the intervention and rally community members, particularly those who have benefited from this project, to use the land productively.
When I heard that 1,294 women benefited from this, I'm so grateful. In the past, women were never considered, and the land belongs to the men. We only cultivate on it, and sometimes we are tossed left and right.
There's also a lot of government land in our district that has not been titled. Lack of titling of our land. And these days, government cannot take any development project anywhere unless you have title. That's why I've been pushing the people of Nyadriaban to make sure the town council to produce title.
Obiga Kanya, the state minister for urban development, who is also the member of parliament for Terego East constituency, who commissioned the recorder and the official handed over the land files to the landlords in Marsa district, particularly in Kijomoroshawu County, explained that government has a target of securing titles for at least 170,000 people in northern Uganda in the next 2 years, but warned communities over sale of land.
The NRM government under the current manifesto plays to process and give landowners legal documentation of items of land titles. That is the basis for processing customary land titles for families in Westnile and the greater northern Uganda. More customary titles are to be processed by the ministry with support from the European Union, targeting the registration of 175,000 families and the indigenous communities and vulnerable communities within the next 2 years.
According to Global Land Tool Network, Uganda's rural population have the right to their rural land through customary tenure arrangements, representing 75 to 80% of the land holdings. However, only 15 to 20% of the land is officially registered. Frederick Ramadri, Westnile TV, Nilecast.
And more in our stories. Over 100 farmers from Terego district have benefited from the training on the restoration of the degrading ecosystems in Terego district. The project that targets 8 villages in Terego district is implemented by Nature Uganda with the view of creating an environment that is sustainable. Farish Majid has more.
In a bid to conserve and restore the highly degraded ecosystem of the forests, wetlands and woodlands that have been contributing to the rampant changes in climate, farmers in 2 sub-counties of Omugo and Odupi in Terego district have been trained on sustainable land management practices, agroforestry with the aim of restoring the fragile ecosystem within the areas. The project, implemented by Nature Uganda, a non-government organization in partnership with Uganda Biodiversity Fund, Ecological Christian Society organization and other partners, with funding from the European Union, is aimed at restoring and conserving the fragile ecosystem within the 5 refugee hosting districts of Yumbe, Kamwenje, Chegegwa, Chikube and Terego district, which host a large number of refugees. Anke Barahukwa, the project manager, Nature Uganda, called for cooperation from the members of the public, as she says the projects are direct meant to benefit them.
We urge the communities to continue working hand in hand with us, because these activities of sustainable land management, agroforestry are to their benefit, because if we are giving out tree species such as fruit tree species such as mangoes, oranges, these in turn will bring back money into their pockets in the future. And if we improve the livelihoods of the communities, we also decrease on their dependence on fragile ecosystems that we are fighting to restore.
After the training, the community members from the 4 villages of Changu, Elepi, Nadua, and Luku, which have been trained, expressed their appreciation towards the project.
Yes, my name is Sango Tokoto. from Leti village. Today we have learned a very good lesson from ecosystem, which has brought us a very good change. Now, as I look around, what we have got right from theory up to the practical part, it will make us to change our life, even the life of other people. Because after here, we are going to begin practicing how the trees will be planted. Out of what we learned, the trees, especially for us who are closer to the river, will help our land being washed away by the water. Again, the animals who also live in water where there are trees will also be in place.
Mama na famani ma aiko simini amani program le tizorse ile angire amapi amave abule kotiki angasra emina muza mani batari toborse akudesa seble kotiki angasra manda bule kotiki a osubiru ngoni sadsi yonzu do mana farikite yi ali dikido sadsi yo aya kotiki angira kutisdiki ndeni la kido sadsi yo yi ide dokete ama aiko simini afariketi zo manurse ama apply ko simini amani kotike dikio riketi zorse ama ma farike sabani sende kusuzo dusidusu dikede le sadisa farike bakya ni sende kuso angirito or the femini emina mana fariketi zorse.
Mr. Ngunia Gaspar, I've been for training for the nature of Uganda today in Mungori. It has been very interesting. They have taught us the way how lines are made for seedlings. They also trained us how to plant the seedlings. They also taught us the benefits of plants in the environment and many others which I cannot talk about all.
Meanwhile, Table Magnon, a forest ranger at Terego district, implored the trained farmers to spread the gospel of agroforestry to the neighboring communities and also to practice what they have learned, since it can be done on any size of land.
And these people who have been trained, let them not be themselves that I've learned this, it is for myself. No. When your nearby community is suffering because of hunger, eventually their children will come and steal. When the trees, when the community, when your neighbor children is vying to eat fruits, when you're the only person having those fruits, what will happen? You'll be spending much of your time in doing protection and trying to make sure that your fruits are not eaten up by the children, which is very, very wrong. Disseminate this information to the next. The opportunities are there. I think within this year, next year, there will also be another group which will be targeted by Nature Uganda before they go. I think to the communities outside there, let's take tree planting and tree planting as a necessity, because
under this initiative, farmers from 10 villages from the areas identified will receive over 110,000 seedlings, as 570 hectares of land has already been identified around the areas of Yellow Wetland, River Enyao and the surrounding areas. Farish Majid, Westnile TV Nilecast.
And more in our stories. The State Minister for Northern Uganda, Honorable Kuyochin Grace Freedom, on the 7th of September 2023, commissioned Adibo Pipe Water Scheme and Kuru Market in Yumbe District in an exercise that brought together hundreds of people from within the district and beyond to grace the occasion. Okumu Dominic has more.
The State Minister for Northern Uganda, Honorable Kuyochin Grace Freedom, yesterday commissioned the Adibo Piped Water Scheme and Kuru Market in Yumbe District. The commissioning exercise brought in hundreds of people from within Yumbe and beyond to grace the occasion. The minister, who was the chief guest, first commissioned the Adibo piped water scheme in Rajini sub-county, which has connected over 300 households before commissioning Kuru Market, which also accommodates over 300 businessmen. The construction of both Kuru Market and Adibo piped water scheme drained close to 2 billion shillings through the Development Initiative for Northern Uganda project DINO. However, the commissioning and the celebration of the exercise was short-lived due to heavy downpour that disrupted the event, giving no chance for the dignitaries to give their remarks to the hundreds of the locals who came to witness the occasion.
We have seen two projects. We have seen the pipe water scheme, and we are now seeing the market. This market is more than 500 million shillings. The water scheme is 1.9 billion shillings. This is great investment with the support of EU, implemented by UNCDF, and of course the government's intervention that has come to Yumbe district. So as we are here in the market, we can see that the sanitation, the cleanliness is good, and this is how a market should be, and this is how the women should organize themselves in order for us also to buy good food. And so we have seen that what has been done is not enough for the population. It's just 130 tenants here, yet this place can accommodate 500 people. So it is a task for us, the local government and our partners, to see how we can improve this place better. For the water project also, about 130 households have been connected, and yet there is still more demand for clean and safe water. It's a call on us, government, to provide services to the people. So we report back to this government to see what else can be done, because this particular program is coming to an end. The funding is coming to an end. So what next should we do is a discussion which we can take back to the government.
The construction of the two big projects in the district was a government initiative to empower the people of Yumbe through the Development Initiative for Northern Uganda DINO, with funding from the European Union through the United Nations Capital Development Fund. Dominic Antonio Kumo for Westnile TV, Nile Cast.
And more in our stories. A 13.2 kilometer Una to Miniki Road in Adjumani district was commissioned by the State Minister for Northern Uganda, Honorable Quiltrin Grace Freedom, on the 5th of September 2023 at Adjumani district headquarters. The minister has urged the people of Adjumani district to use the new roads for economic transformation. Onzima Alan has more.
State Minister for Northern Uganda, Honorable Quiltrin Grace Freedom, has urged the people of Adjumani district to use the new roads for economic transformation. Honorable Quiltrin Grace Freedom made this statement on 5th September 2023 at Adjumani district headquarters while commissioning the 13.2 kilometers road from Una to Miniki, constructed under Teres Construction Company Limited. Mr. Anthony Namara, representing Minister for Local Government, Honorable Raphael Magezi, on commissioning of the 13.2 kilometer road, thanked the government of Uganda for the initiative.
Celebrates a significant milestone in the development journey of Northern Uganda. The commissioning of projects and interventions under the Development Initiative of Northern Uganda, DINO, generously funded by the European Union through UNCDF, marks a momentous occasion that underscores the importance of international cooperation and partnership in driving positive change in our region. Northern Uganda has endured its share of challenges over the years, from conflict and displacement to economic issues. However, today we gather not to dwell on the past, and look towards a brighter future.
Meanwhile, the LC5 chairman, Ajumani District, Honorable Anyama Ben, request UNCDF for the second phase and urge them to give more funds in order to complete construction of other roads.
In 7 sub-counties out of 11 sub-counties, meaning it has really benefited the people highly. We want to thank the EU. We want to thank the countries that have given us this money. We want to thank the contractors who have performed so well. Because we see this type of road, this first class really it is. And we cannot take it for granted. We also want to thank the contractors for being patient. Because sometimes they are paying delays. But they don't stop on the way, they continue working.
Tabandata Peter, the resident district commissioner of Ajumani District, thanked the government of Uganda for supporting development in the district, which in turn will boost business opportunities.
To keep peace and stability of the nation, and it is through this peace and stability that we are able to see all these developments taking place. So I want to thank the President of the Republic of Uganda for putting peace and stability as first priority for the people of Uganda. That the only road from Wachia to the landing site is the only tarmac road that is seen in the whole of this district. And it has caused a very big problem to contractors. Because the standard they have put on that road, any contractor who will come to working on a road in a human will have problem. Because they have set a standard that is not seen anywhere in the world. We want to thank you for that money and for giving the right people to do that work.
The question which somebody asked here, do people out there also know this progress? I think that is what we should embark on. Those are technical people, they have done their work. Sometimes they are not very good at telling people out there. So where are the politicians? Are they on this side? So this is now our role to tell people the good that this program has done. EU is their cooperation has not worked only in Ajumani. There are many other things they have done in this country. They have had engagement with the whole of northern Uganda, from Karamoja to here. I want to thank you for the roads, because road is critical in transforming the economy. Road is critical in making us access services. And I hear there is a lot of market in Sudan, in DRC, which we can access. If the chairman is boasting that now cars from Arua, from Kokoko, do not go through those other borders, they have to come here to Ajumani first in order to go to Sudan. That is an achievement. It's not the main achievement. It's bringing a whole integration of Central Africa to our district.
Peace Oshaki, Onzima Alan, Westnile TV, Nilecast.
And more in our stories, the Mahdi Culture Institution sensitized the masses over the traditional marriage requirements in a meeting which took place at Bishop Asil Secondary School in Moyo Town Council, bringing together culture chiefs with their executive members, elders, representatives to deliberate on the traditional marriage requirements. Okumu Dominic has more.
The Mahdi Cultural Institution held the second review meeting on traditional marriage principles and regulations in order to redirect the people on the traditional marriage requirements, which seems to have been neglected in the region. The meeting, which took place at Bishop Asili Secondary School in Moyo Town Council, brought together the cultural chiefs with their executive members, elders representatives, both male and female, and the youth representatives to deliberate on the traditional marriage requirements. Mr. Okuni Patrick,
the coordinator of Madi Cultural Institution, said the meeting is to foster harmony in the marriage institution, which seemed to have deviated from the traditional ways.
The chiefs has converged together to review these traditional requirements so that it suits the really tradition of Madi, and to also address some other issues that is affecting the social existence of the Madi people in the Madi sub-region. It is very important because it highlights the roles of the culture, the Madi culture, and also the roles of the cultural leaders in addressing those social problems in the community.
Mrs. Amoko Margaret, the woman representative in the Elders Forum in Adjumani, requests the people of Madi to return to the traditional way of marriage in order to stop the rampant cases of children being left under the care of their grandmothers.
Isi Madri Marani Kolea Orumati Surumadi Dede Kolea Makengwe Habia Ben Badide Kengwe La Lundrole La Dudi Kola Kengwe La Lukuriga Malala Lukuria Losoninja Oba Uni Wansi Nosi Atiri Bele Difudriama Henry Katakinamba Nyendre hinya batiri zura nguzisa nyengwe nyanya batiri zo maditi ya jule ngwazi yangwa riani nani na sikwande zeyo amazoro rianda tanana yo ba mari amati fodria anare nyiswa etile kare zigare nyiswa na endreno drara usata no dra odre ya baruvi rianda ese batiru zo sadro batiru zo kadro rengbenvo kidia dulisi ni ya kutilo alukani ni suwa batiri tere du ya suruni ya panimbi kikayolwe inayana.
Mr. Mawa Basir, the Minister for Security and Disaster in Rendika Chiefdom, said the meeting has enlightened the people on the traditional marriage principles and requirements since most of them had gone off track.
It's an eye-opener. Many people almost lost track, but this meeting, my understanding is, has brought them on track again. And two, it also gave us an insight on how far we can go as we plan in line with the cultural activities.
Chief Andruvu Dennis Tologo Bandasi, the cultural leader of Moyo Rendika Chiefdom, who also doubles as the chairman for Madi Cultural Development Association, expressed gratitude to the organizers of the meeting and implored the elders to enlighten their young ones about the Madi tradition.
Our culture is our identity. But when we move around to the community, there are few elders that narrate us or that nurture us with our culture, making it that if you look at today's life, we are going astray. So it's our responsibility as a stakeholders, as a parent, to bring our children nearby us. We tell them where we come from, what type of food, what type of marriage is respected in the community and their importance. When we go back to our history, we used to recognize the virginity in the marriage where bride price is paid highly, but nowadays it's not there.
The Madi Cultural Institution constitute a total of 20 chiefs from the 3 districts of Moyo, Adjumani and Obongi, with every chief having his executive members to coordinate activities in their chiefdoms. The Madi Cultural Institution took the initiative to review the traditional marriage principles after realizing that many people have deviated from the set principles and regulations, which has resulted to the exploitation of the masses, and the institution wants to avert the vice among the communities. I'm Dominic Anthony Okumo for Westnile TV, Nilecast.
And more in our stories. The President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, today celebrated his 79th birthday, where hundreds of people, including several political and religious leaders, congregated at Kololo Independence Ground to celebrate in Kampala City. The day started with a procession along Kampala Ginger Road as a company known as Seven Hills, contracted to clean Kampala City, marched to Kololo Independence Ground for the President Museveni's 79th birthday fete. The 79th birthday fete was organized by a group of youths led by the national coordinator in the office of the NRM chairman, Hadija Huzey Namiyalo.
My name is Oraku Benson Pastore, and you are most welcome for NILE Sports News. And one of the stories we have got for you today, Uganda Cranes yesterday beat Niger by 2-0. Goals in first half from Abdul Aziz Kayondo and Joseph Ochaya did see Uganda Cranes beating Niger by 2-0. Despite the win over Niger, they could not seal qualifications for African Cup of Nations that will be played next year because they were demanding a convincing result from Algeria, where they needed Tanzania to be beaten by Algeria. Unfortunately, the game between Algeria and Tanzania ended in a barren draw. That means Tanzania has finished ahead of Uganda Cranes by a point. And Tanzania qualifying for African Cup of Nations next year is the third time in their history they are qualifying for African Cup of Nations. And now taking a look at the summary of the table standing in Group F, that means Algeria, they are finished on top with 16 points, having won 5 games and drawing 1. Meanwhile, the second team on the log is Tanzania, that have qualified for AFCON next year. Uganda, after the win they had over Niger yesterday, it took them to 7 points, but they could not pave way to that AFCON next year. And the last country that finished in that group was Niger, that only finished with 2 points. And that is the end of the AFCON qualifiers in that group. Away from that story, in another story for you today, another Sea Cranes player, that's Mahmoud, has joined a team that plays in UK. And this is a player who has been played for Kampala City Council Authority. And Kampala City Authority signed him from Uganda Christian University. He was part of the squad that featured. He was part of the squad that featured in the Netball World Cup that was hosted by South Africa, where Uganda managed to finish in 5th position, and was also part of the squad that participated last year in Commonwealth Games that was hosted by England, and it was played in the city of Birmingham. And the name of the player is of course Hanissa Mahmoud. And he's not the only Uganda netball player that has crossed over to UK. We have also seen Peace Proskovia also playing for the same club this lady has joined. I am talking about Storm Sures. And another Ugandan netballer who is also playing in UK is of course a player in the names of Mary Nuba Twalog, and for him he's playing for Loughborough. To finalize today's edition of NILE Sports News with what is happening in the camp of Olympic Lyon, as they are looking for a new manager to guide them in this season's French League One. They have approached former Chelsea coach former Chelsea coach Potter, but the guy turned down the opportunity to become the coach of Olympique de Lyon. Currently, they are the last team in the table standing of French League One with only a point out of the 4 games they have played in French League One. That means they have lost 3 and drawing only 1. And currently, they are still managed by former Paris Saint-Germain manager, that's Laurent Blanc. With that, I call an end to today's NILE Sports News. My name is Oraku Benson Pastore. Have the best of your moments, and we'll link up again tomorrow.